Well, remember when we were told we were going to get money out of politics, right? Campaign finance reform, everything needs to be notated. We want to know where all that money's coming from. It's actually worse than it's ever been. And when you hear this next story, well, your head's going to want to explode because everything you're about to hear, I'm pretty sure, is legal. And that's the problem. Joining us right now is O.H. Skinner, Executive Director for Alliance for Consumers. And I got to tell you, Mr. Skinner, I read this story and I was shocked that this is actually happening. First of all, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
So you've got these lawyers and they start doing like class action lawsuits. So let's say they're going after a tobacco company, right? And they get a whole bunch of money in a big settlement. I always assumed, color me naive, Mr. Skinner, I assumed the lawyers got a good chunk of that money, and then the rest of it all went to, you know, the victims, the people who they were actually fighting for. But it turns out that money's actually going directly into the political pipeline.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so at Alliance, I run a group called Alliance for Consumers, and we talk about how basically the left has captured consumer protection in America and they're using it as just a money machine for their political aspirations. And so you've named it exactly right. I mean, you think, oh, the lawyers are going to get a jet and victims also get money.
Yeah.
And that's like maybe a trade-off that's worth it. But what they're really doing is, you know, we've done some reports. We call them the shady trial lawyer pipeline reports. And what you're seeing is public officials in particular handing out contracts to their left-wing trial lawyer buddies, knowing that when millions go to those lawyers, 99% of the money, when we looked at the federal level, goes back into left-wing campaigns, left-wing political committees, and it runs the whole spectrum. It's, you know, it's groups that are focused on abortion. It's groups that are focused on undoing anything that people on the right care about. And that's money coming out of blue states and red states, and the left has just hijacked it.
So let's talk about a real world example, if you could. So we already know, I think the trial lawyers in America are, if not number one, they're number two in terms of a group of people who donate to the Democratic Party and left-wing causes. So they're sending their money into the cause to get these people elected. And then what happens with that, with the money that, you know, somebody's elected, they're a Democrat. What scenario do they set up so that then those lawyers can get richer so that the money can flow back to the Democrats?
Yeah, so they have all sorts of games, right? They hand out public contracts so that taxpayer dollars feed the lawyers, and then the lawyers give the money to politics. So that's just siphoning money that's public money into politics for the left. They give their money to political action committees that are blasting the airwaves with ads against every Senate candidate on the right in America right now. And then there's like an extra special present that they've put in here, which is over time, primarily left-wing attorneys general have siphoned $250 million off into a group. It has a very calm name, the National Association of Attorneys General. And they're just using it as a piggy bank for only going after people that they don't like when it comes to companies. They're not going after BlackRock and ESG. They're not going after people who are attacking core American values. They're just picking and choosing who the left wants to go after. Well, so it's feeding into it's feeding into like left-wing advocacy groups and political campaigns and voter registration. It runs the whole spectrum.
It's so insidious, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to be wrong, but I remember when the Trump administration proposed various things with regard to immigration policy, our refugee policy, building the wall, a ban on people coming into the country from certain other countries. You know, pick your poison. There was almost always a lawsuit by some attorney general from some state that would find a federal judge to put a temporary block on that. Is that where this is coming from? When you mention state attorneys general and their associations, that's where the money's coming from It's
coming. Yeah. So let's talk about opioids, right? They'll sue McKinsey over opioids and they get a big settlement. And we all think, great, that's going to go to victims of the opioid crisis. But they divert the money to their own little slush funds and left-wing trial lawyers at places like Motley Rice that give 99% of their money.
Pause there for a second, because this is what's maddening. They win a settlement to help the people who are suffering from opioid addiction. And it sounds wonderful, and that's exactly, they deserve some help.
That's what they should be doing.
How does the money then go to these political causes instead of to the victims of the pharmaceutical companies that push the opioids in the first place?
Because they know who their friends are, and so they all go out and sign up the most left-wing law firms to represent them. And to your point about the political lawsuits against the Trump administration, the same law firms that are working for state attorneys general on both sides, red states and blue states, Cohen-Milstein is one of these law firms, or Leif Cabraser out of San Francisco. Leif Cabraser gave so much. They gave 100% of their donations to Democrats at the federal level recently. $30 went to a Republican. It's like somebody forgot that there was an instruction that they gave like $2.5 million in politics, and $30 went to a Republican. Right? That when I say 100%, I mean 100%.
No,
those are the same law firms.
They threw the 20 and the 10 in there. Come on, OH. I mean, they got
so
something out of it.
Right? They give to both sides.
Yeah.
But so they get contracts, and then the lawyers come in and help the left-wing politicians. So Cohen-Milstein is suing President Trump for personal liability over January 6th with Democratic members of Congress. You know, Leif Cabraser was suing over every immigration restriction that President Trump put into place out of their San Francisco law office, working alongside the California Attorney General. So what you really, I mean, the one message I would give to all of your viewers is when you see a settlement that you think, good, that company did a bad thing, hold them accountable, you've got to know that underneath, the left has built an entire architecture to steal as much of that money from victims and put it into their law firm allies, which they know the law firms give 99% of their donations back. So like the last one I'll say is Nancy Pelosi tried to give a huge giveaway to trial lawyers. And everybody asked, why did she try to put a huge tax break in? It's because she knows that when they get a big check, they kind of tithe back to their church, which is the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And that's just, so you always got to know that these are 99% partisans, 100% partisan.
And let me, just for clarification's sake, do they actually build into the settlement agreement money that is earmarked for, nonpartisan political, advocacy groups? Or is this the lawyers make a ton of money and then they make a donation out of their pile that goes to these
It's
funds?
almost always, they're not so brazen. So they make sure that the lawyers get so much money and then the lawyers give it back at a 99% rate. But Larry, one of the things that's so insidious about the National Association of Attorneys General is that when they give money to that group, they get to pretend like they're giving it for educational campaigns and other things.
Oh, sure.
But that's money that also is drifting to the left, and it's why a bunch of Republicans have quit that organization. So in that instance, that's money that they are giving under the guise of education and bipartisan, and everything is copacetic. But really, we all know that that's just a way to fund one of their advocacy groups. It took a lot of effort to bash President Trump.
It's Alliance for Consumers that's revealed all this, and you can get more information at allianceforconsumers.org. Skinner, what needs to be done to stop this? Because I think it is maddening for anybody watching right now when they realize that all of those roadblocks to the Trump agenda that bottled things up and clogged things up in federal court that eventually all went away. He ended up winning, I think, pretty much all of those things. But that was actually funded by these settlements. What needs to be done? There should be a law, shouldn't there?
Yeah. So look, I don't get involved in trying to pass laws in. I find that to be it's its own unique form of something that's not super fun.
That's probably wise.
The main reason we're out here is for too long, probably because of the business community, people would only talk about left-wing trial lawyers as if they were bad because they got a jet out of a case.
Yeah.
Or because they sued some company. Companies deserve to get what's coming for them, especially in today's world when they're drifting to the left. But what I think everyone who watches your show needs to realize is when you hear the word trial lawyer, you need to think people who are so committed to the Democratic cause that the only people competing with them for money, commitment, 99%, are the worst public employee unions. Yeah. This is a left-wing cabal, and they have for too long hijacked consumer protection. So whenever you see a public official in your town or your state, say, Are you working
Yeah.
with those left-wing trial lawyers who are trying to end, conservative politicians?
At the
who are
very
trying to
least, we
end
should be doing
conservative
that.
law?
Oh, wait, Skinner, thank you.
Yeah.
We got to roll. More to come on O'Connor tonight.